Hi everyone, Jane here. Thanks so much for watching today and welcome. Today I am going to be working in the Canson art book. This is the one with Saunders Waterford paper. I only have a few pages left, so I'm quite excited to be getting so near the end. And I decided that I wanted to use stencils and stamps to create my focal images. Now I often use collage, but I also have a big collection of stamps and stencils. Now I'm really sorry, but the stamps that I'm using today, they are ones that I designed for a company in the UK, and I'm not sure, well, I know that this one definitely isn't available because this was one that got designed and then never got released. So I'm really sorry, but I'm determined to use it because I love it so much. It was based on my cat, and I really like this stamp set that I hand drew and then was made into stamps. So I apologise, but I'm sure you could use similar if you have it. Now I started off with this circle stencil. Now this, again, this is just some very thin mylar that I purchased off of the internet. And then I used one of my circle dies just to cut a circle from the middle of it because I just wanted a large circle that I could use within my own work. And I wanted just to create a moon, but I did want it to be a crescent moon. So I started by going round in pencil so that I could add those little bits in to make those pointy crescents. And I wanted the cat to be sitting on the moon and looking out to space through the gap. But I thought that that little bit there just really needed a dangle. And again, I'm using a stencil that I designed, but again, you could just use a ruler to draw the line. I'm sure there's lots of star stencils on the market, and I'm just going over the inked line with my Unipin pen where I didn't feel it I had stamped as well, because I'm stamping onto a very uneven bulky surface, and now I'm just rubbing out any pencil lines with my Faber Castel. I think it's a soft eraser. I like that one because it sort of gathers the bits together. I decided I wanted to start with the background, and because it's going to be a spacey background, I went for this Kuretake Gansai Tambi granulating paint, and I'm choosing one from the set 2, which is the cosmic set, which goes with the theme. And I wanted it to be this cosmic violet because that splits into lots of sort of spacey colours. So you get a bit of blue, a bit of purple. I'm not sure if there's a bit of pink in there. I add a bit of pink, that's what I do. So I'm using a lot of water, and I am putting on the paint, adding in more water where necessary, just so that I hope that it really does split into the different colours. And I'm just also, by putting water down first around any image you don't want to get paint onto, the paint then automatically flows into the water rather than areas where maybe you didn't want it. And sometimes I add a little bit too much, so I just water it out a bit more. But I'm not worried about it being patchy because it's meant to be a patchy sort of sky. And in a little while you'll see I just add in a little bit of some of the core watercolours as well that are very flowy, just to add a little bit more difference in colour to the image. I did then leave this quite a while to make sure that it all dried naturally, and you can see it gives that really sort of cloudy looking night sky idea. And then I've switched over palettes to my big palette that has my core and my Daniel Smith and some Rosa Gallery paints in it, and I think I use I use a mix of the core and the Daniel Smiths. Now, I debated whether I was going to make my moon be sort of yellowy gold, but then I actually thought, no, I'm going to go for a grey and silver for this moon today. And so I'm starting off with Jane's Grey, I thought it was quite apt, for the base of the colour. And then what I'm doing is trying to leave areas to dry a bit whilst I move on to others, so that I'm not going to get any cross-contamination of the paint flowing into each other where I don't want it. So I decided to base this cat on my own lovely cat who we sadly lost last year, and he was a sort of a creamy gingery colour, so I've gone in with the buff titanium to start with and coloured in the main part of the cat, and then I move on to some of the flowers again so that I can let that base layer dry a little bit. And what I do is I just build up the paint as I go, and you will see me do that with changing the colours and adding bits in here and there, and again trying to leave bits to dry whilst working on other sections so that I don't have any of that paint moving into places I don't want it to. Once that was more or less dry, I decided to go in with some pencil. Now, watercolour can look beautiful on its own, but I'm not an expert in using it, so I like to build up the colour with other mediums as well, and I find that providing a base layer of watercolour then makes it easier for me to add pencil, because I do like the effect of pencil, but I do find using colour pencil is quite hard on my hands. So by having that colour already down, it means I don't have to work as hard adding some pencil work in. Now I'm going with my harder cord pencils here. So this is my what do you call it, bag case, that's the word, my pencil case that's got my Faber Castel Polychromos and my Caran Pablos, and these are a harder sort of pencil to use, but I like them for adding details on top of watercolour. The drawing pencils and luminance, things like that, I do have as well. Not all of them, just a selection, and I have them in a separate case because I know that those are my softer leaded pencils. I have to say, when doing things like that, I really do prefer these pencils. I find I get better detail, better coverage for me, how I like to colour. But like I said, because they are quite hard on your hands, having that initial colour down really does help. So I'm just going in with a few different colours. I'm picking and choosing between the different brands. I don't worry about mixing up brands. I look at the colour rather than the brand I'm using, but like I said, I keep the hard ones and the soft ones in separate cases, so I know that they're the similar sort of feel to them when colouring in. So I'm just going over, blending in a little bit and just creating a little bit of extra depth in my images. As you will have seen, I also added a little bit of Copic Acrea in there as well to add more texture into the moon, and also a little bit of silver because I felt it needed a little bit of glisten to it. And some areas where I'd gone over the lines a bit more, I decided to go back in with my Unipin pen, and I added some little sketchy sort of zigzags around the moon as well, just to tie it all together. I then wanted to add some more texture into the background, so I'm going in with this silver acrylic paint. I do believe it's an Americana premium or something like that. I've had it a long time and it was a little bit gloopy when it came out, so I've just really mixed it in on the mat before I added it with this star stencil. I'm not sure where the star stencil came from. It's quite a thin one, so it may have been from a magazine. And then I'm going in with another one of my stamp sets, and I just got this with some little stars on. So I've got one that's like a solid star and one that's like a line art star. And I'm just going in with my archival inks just to, again, add a little bit more into the background. I felt that it was a bit plain, although it's got that beautiful granulation. I did want more interest in there as well. So I'm using, I do believe it's possibly Faded Jeans and Dusty Concord, I think are the two colours in the archival inks. And I'd add in just a few stars around in little clusters, And then I decided that the open stars just needed a little bit of colour inside them. So I reached for these Artex acrylic markers, and I got this sort of lilac-y colour. They don't have colour names on them, these pens, they just have numbers. And I just am colouring in the centres. And I will list all the products that I used in the description box below so that you can check out them in your own area or see if you've got similar, which would be the ideal. Use what you already have. Then finally, I just wanted to add a little sentiment on, and this is one that I often use, Lemon Creations sentiments. Unfortunately, she doesn't sell physical products anymore, but she still does sell digital ones, so check her out online. Just look up Lemon Creation, and it just said, "I only told the moon," which I thought went beautifully with this, and I really love this little page. It was just really sweet, I felt, and I had a really nice time completing it. So I hope you enjoyed it too, and that you'll give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I have a list of my lovely super supporters at the end of this video who I'd like to say an extra big thank you to. And if you do see that hype button, do please hit that one as well. So until the next time, bye bye.